Welcome into Live Good Dynasty. We've got an awesome episode today because we're going to ask the question that you've been wondering, try to answer it ourselves. Is Caleb Williams a bust? Uh, what an extreme statement. But we'll talk a little bit about Caleb Williams, and then we'll get into your questions, and we'll spend a little bit of time kind of going through your trade questions, your starts questions, sit questions, and more. All right, Nate. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Happy to get into this. Yeah, Caleb Williams was in my top 10 for the year, so for dynasty purposes. So we'll be talking about whether or
Yeah.
not he's awesome, has the potential to be him, or we should be walking away. So I'm excited
Yeah,
about
he was
that.
not in mine, so let's talk about if this amazing start has gotten him into my top 10 or not. But first, a word from our intro. All right, so is he a bust?
All right, Caleb Williams. Not willing to put my stamp on him in my top 10 anymore, for dynasty purposes potentially, but he's
He was
coming
on the
into his
fringe
own.
anyways.
He was on the fringe. He was towards the back end of my top 10. Um, he still has the potential to be him. I
Hmm.
think he's had a couple of weeks where he's coming around, figuring out how the system can work for him. Uh, One thing that I think really hurt him going into the first 2 weeks is that he wanted to do what he did at SC and play hero ball. He's like
Hmm.
holding on, really trying to sling it, and it got away from him. He had four interceptions over a 2 game span. Um, where he got eaten up, but he found success finding DeAndre Swift as a passing option, finding Cole Kmet, finding those intermediate options where he can kind of get the ball out of his hands faster, and kind of have to shy away from playing hero ball as much. And as he's maturing into that and what the NFL game has, I think he'll grow into a much better option for quarterback. So better days to come. Your boy's not a bust, but maybe he's not the elite walk-in that everyone hailed him to be coming into the league.
Yeah, and that's okay, right? It's okay to not come in and be a world beater because that's the outlier, and doesn't determine the future success of somebody. Now, I was listening to, it was a Yahoo Fantasy Sports piece. Matt Harmon was on there, and the name of the co-host was escaping me, but he made a good. So apologies, but he made a great point of that Caleb Williams, what they're asking him to do is not a normal thing. So he's not just getting a couple plays that he can choose from that at the line of scrimmage. They gave him the permission, and like they've empowered him to do full audibles, which is something that quarterbacks like Hurts is just now doing, where he's having a hard time kind of taking that up, and he's not just because of that, but it's a skill set that takes many years and a very smart person to be able to attempt like the full run of the offense, and they're giving him a lot right now. And then the time that they didn't was the other day against the Rams, where they simplified everything. They didn't give him as much to run, and that's the game that he killed it on. Odunze went mad on. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that this horrible play is a bad idea of giving him everything at once, but eventually he'll either get a hang of it or they'll simplify and build back up to it. So I think there's a lot brighter days. I don't know if I'm a big believer in him for this year, because I don't know if that balances out this year. But in terms of dynasty, he's become a buy for me, because I think it's not like people are going to run away from him already after 5 games into his career or 4 games into his career. But it's at a point now where people are starting to have the question, and you might be able to get him um, for a little bit cheaper than that person who's able to grab him one overall in a super flex, or a few down the list in a standard.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, he's coming into his own, and they're going to keep figuring out. He's got Keenan Allen back, so he's got another intermediate option with a great route runner right now, right down the middle. That game that you're referencing where he went off, dude had 52 passing attempts, which is insane compared to what the rest of
Yeah.
rest of his games have looked like. But with that came a lot more production because he was understanding where to put the ball, found those intermediate options. So, yeah, we'll see how this grows going into the next couple weeks. He's got Carolina and Jacksonville, so he's got a couple more games he has some space to develop. So
Yeah.
we'll see what game 5 and 6 look like for him.
Yeah. And we kind of hinted it a little bit, but we did a top 10 quarterback episode for Dynasty before the season started. And we did that for running back, wide receiver, and quarterback. And thank God we didn't do it for a tight end and didn't get to it because, that's a mess. But so quick plug for next week. We want to go back over those and just kind of see how are we feeling. Has anybody dropped off that list? Has anybody jumped onto the list for others? And just give us our updated top 10 quarterback ranking. So that'll be next week. Now, for today, though, we're going to go through some questions that we have that we grabbed from the community, and we'll start with a trade one. So it doesn't give much about the league itself. We're switching back in a mindset to redraft right now. But Devon Achane, Nico Collins, George Kittle, that's who the person would be receiving. And they'd be sending Breece Hall, Davante Adams, Kyle Pitts. He said 10-team full PPR. I'm 3-1. My team is Josh Allen, Breece Hall, Dobbins, Neighbors, Tyreek, Pitts, Adams, Sutton, Hubbard, Brooks, Rice with a sad face. So sending Breece, Devontae, Pitts, getting Kittle, Collins, Achane. I would take that in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah. So he's getting Achane, Kittle, and who's the third? Oh, Collins.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I would definitely take that in a heartbeat, for sure. I don't even want to talk about tight ends yet, but we're getting there. Just getting some consistency. You have a potential league winner in Nico Collins there. And Achane, I think will be better when Mostert is back helping him out. So better days potentially come for him. But yeah, on the sending end, even without even remembering what the sending side of that was, but I would definitely stick with that side of it.
Perfect. This is a question that a neighbor of mine actually sent me, this exact one. So I'll go to this one next, and it's a start-sit decision for tight end. What do we got? Conklin or Otten?
One's a bit tougher. Otten is just always present on the field, so I think I like Otten over the two. He's just used so much in pass protection that run blocking and stuff, that he's on the field all the time, available for dump offs and design pass plays. So he's shown that can be used by Baker. I would go Otten over Conklin. The Jets are I think the Jets are still figuring out what they are, and I think Rodgers isn't who he used to be. Your thoughts?
I would go Conklin. Okay. I think it's a toss-up, but my answer to him was send me a screenshot of the waivers for tight end. And and I said Juan Jennings, Juan Jennings, right? Mm-hmm. Out of New Orleans. I liked that play a little bit better, and I think how he ended his year last year.
Juan Johnson?
Did I say Johnson? Yes, thank you. Johnson I would pick because he ended very strong, and then he got a foot injury, and he's kind of been sluggish coming back to it, and I see his usage being increasing. So at some point with the tight end landscape how it is, I don't see Conklin or Otten stepping up to a whole another level, but Jennings or Johnson I can see hitting that next level, and then you might have something, but worst case it's going to be a similar week as the other two, I think. So that's who I would go for.
I'm going to put this back to you, another tight end question, and we can rant on tight ends here in a second, but in tonight's Thursday night game, would you rather start Otten from Tampa Bay or Kyle Pitts?
I'm going to say Pitts. Yeah, I'm going to say Pitts. I've kind of given up, but I haven't fully given up of the upside that's there. I think because of the upside alone, I would just go Pitts. But I've given up on him being like the elite. But he could be a Muth, a Friar Muth, and I think that'd be better than an Conklin or Otten, did you say? Either is my answer, but
Pitts is your answer either way. I said Otten because
yeah.
Atlanta and Tampa Bay are just playing each other tonight. Thought it was an interesting question. I saw somewhere, and I have to pull the stat, but where Pitts currently 4 games in is getting less than 10% of the target share from Cousins right now, which hurts my soul, to be fair. And he came away with 3 targets and 0 receptions in week 4. So hopefully we see a rebound, but we're in a situation where we're literally praying for 1 reception just to see him touch the ball and then go from there and grow from it. So, yeah, it's just, I bring that up, but it sounds crazy because if I had asked that question 4 weeks ago, it would have been insane to even come up. But I definitely was proven wrong so far 4 weeks in on where I stood on Kyle Pitts. I thought this was like the automatic rebound season. You got Kirk Cousins. He's got a great history with tight ends. You think about like when he was in Washington with Jordan Reed. You think about what he did with Hawkinson.
Yeah.
It's so yeah. Hopefully we see it come back, but it's been rough.
Now sticking with Atlanta, here's a question for a start sit. Drake London or Brandon Aiyuk?
I mean, I think right now you have to go London. I think Aiyuk is still, I don't know what's going. There's a couple of wide receivers that are out there right now that you're like, what is going on? They should have every reason in the world to be able to really step up and go, but Aiyuk hasn't really gotten it going yet. Jawan Jennings is still a thing. You still got Debo there, and still hasn't scored a touchdown this year, or at least Drake London's getting used in that way. They're designing up plays for him, and since Kyle Pitts isn't getting the ball, Drake London is. So I would go London.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, Aiyuk might be one of those ones that's updated and off of my top 10 wide receiver list when we do it. I want to see how the next couple weeks go. This one seems easy. It's another Pitts one, and I think this should be our last Pitts one. Cole Kmet or Pitts?
I'm going Cole Kmet right now. I mean, it's crazy, but and again, another one of those questions I would have never assumed we would be having. But like I said earlier when we were talking about Caleb, he's going for he needs that intermediate route that Kmet provides for him. It really paid off in one game, and probably it won't show up in that same way, I don't think, the rest of the year, or at least every game, but it's going to be that option for him.
Yeah.
And I don't see that.
Yeah, I think he's yeah, for all the same reasons you said and what we said earlier about just ramping up throughout the year for Caleb, but so I would go Kmet there as well. This one's tough. Actually, I might actually have this issue myself in one of my leagues if I'm remembering correctly. Bucky or Worthy PPR?
Bucky or who?
Worthy, that guy that you dropped on the waivers.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to that guy. I think it's going to depend on roster construction a little bit here. If you need a wide receiver right now, then I would say Worthy, because he's guaranteeing you points today, and he's going to get those touchdowns. He's going to get those opportunities at least. I know.
Are you thinking a trade or a start sit?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking a trade. What are you talking about?
This is a start sit.
Okay. All right.
Should have said that. I should have said that.
So we're thinking start sit in a flex position.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I want to see one more week of the Bucky Rashad White split, so I'm probably going to start Worthy this week, but I can easily see Bucky being the better option rest of season.
Yeah. Don't hear what I'm not saying when I say this, but so I'm not saying live by projections, but if your projections or your personal projections have you way ahead of your opponent, I would say Bucky. If you need a little bit of a Hail Mary, I would say Worthy. So if you want to play it safer, go Bucky. If you really want to shoot and you need like somebody to pop off, then you have a bigger chance of Worthy giving you that, in my opinion, until we know more about, like you said, the split with Bucky and White.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Though a little surprised we're talking about projected wins, but okay.
Do you want to talk about our matchup?
No, I don't. I'm good.
The projected, because we're finally facing each other, a rematch of the championship in which you won again. But it's not looking so hot for you this week.
Yeah, that right there. Last
Oh,
2 years.
I thought you were saying that's how much I'm going to win by.
um, yeah. So for those that we'll just post a picture of this lovely projection, but we're in a situation where I've got to start quarterbacks by the name of Jacoby Brissett or Taylor Huntley. So that's the world that I'm living in today. Most of my championship team is either injured or been traded away. So yeah, we're going into a rough one where I'm looking like a 34% chance of losing, and we'll see how this sucker goes. But yeah, that's why you don't believe in projections, guys. Any given weekend, any given Sunday, someone can go off. So we're here. That's why we play the game, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I am a little upset that you will not have to face neighbors who you let me take. I was really hoping that would be the case, that you would just be able to have that conversation, spend a weekend with neighbors, and enjoy what I think he's going to be. He hasn't practiced all week. I think he's doubtful now. I think he's officially doubtful now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bummer. And I hope I hope Odunze goes off just so I can feel better about myself.
Yeah. Etienne or Bucky is a weird one. What am I missing with? So if this is a start, should I start, Bucky or Etienne? There's no information on if it's PPR or not. I think I'm on the Etienne side for right now, but I'm willing to make that change if things continue for both how they are.
Yeah, I mean, the only Etienne's currently questionable. I've got him on my Dynasty League. I'm starting him, obviously. He had a quote unquote rougher week this past week, but still someone I'm not concerned about. He's going to be going up against Indianapolis this weekend. Bucky, I think we're still figuring out. I think the split between Etienne and Tank Bigsby is being overblown a little bit because Tank had a great game while Etienne was injured for a couple of quarters or a few series. So his stats got padded a little bit, but I think Etienne's still your starting running back. So I think that's who's going to carry the load there. Whereas the split is as close to 50-50 as possible with Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. I think Etienne still favors the split on with Jacksonville. So I'd still go Etienne there.
Perfect. Are there any that you're seeing?
Sorry.
Do you see any ones that you want to hit?
To jump to a different screen. There was one.
I got a good one while you're searching.
Okay.
Bowers, this is a start. Bowers or Kincaid?
Why are we still talking about tight ends? This is painful.
Adams is going to miss again, yeah? Because it's all these trade rumors and everything.
Quick pivot. I think that we're in a situation where Adams has played his last game with the Raiders. I just think we're there.
Yeah, I do too.
Like he's done. So
I'm gonna lose my mind if they trade him to New Orleans. I'm gonna be so upset with the fantasy football gods. The only place I'm happy really is like send him to Washington. Do that. Fine, the Steelers. Okay, those are ones being floated around. But if he goes and ruins Olave and Shaheed for me, I am quitting fantasy football.
I'll write that down because it did come out as an option, right? So somewhere he was considering. Back to the original question. I think I go Brock Bowers here just because of the targets that are going to open up. They're playing Denver this week, who's been great against wide receivers, so I don't expect a ton out of Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, who've kind of picked up the slack with Adams out. And Bowers just has a way of getting open. If you just watch him run his routes, you watch him play. Doesn't matter how they do it; they're finding ways to get him the ball or get him involved in the game plan. Dalton Kincaid is safe. I don't think there's a 6 or half a dozen here situation. Like if I'm picking between the two, I'm probably going Bowers just for the upside.
Yep.
But good on you if you have them both on your team. I wouldn't
Now,
drop one for the other though on waivers.
would you trade in Dynasty? Would you rather? Is there anyone you'd rather have over outside of maybe Laporta? We've spoken about already, but is Bowers your number 2 there?
Yeah, right. Another one where we're going into the season, I would have said no, but no, Bowers is probably because of the skills he's showing and how they're going to utilize him. He's in Dynasty my number 2, maybe still my number 2 for now.
Yeah, he's my number 1, but I get not committing to that yet. I also that's how I trade and act in fantasy. Is I and my rankings suggest it of like I have to rank based on my bets, and I tend to like I have the theory of just you have to move faster to take advantage of some things, and I'm immediately after 2 weeks I was good with Bowers being number 1, and I tried to go after it, and that was an auto draft in our league.
Oh, what? Oh, it was
in our Dynasty rookie draft.
I
It was,
remember that.
The first 2 rounds he wasn't there. Yeah.
Don't PSA anyone here listening here. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Just don't be that auto drafter.
Yeah, and it felt horrible because he was very against the pick, and everyone kind of scoffed at it a little bit. And there we are. Here's a good one because we can answer this in a few ways. I'm going to start it with what the person is not intending, but in Dynasty or redraft, let's say Dynasty, if you had Garrett Wilson, would you trade him for Brian Thompson Jr.?
Brian Thomas Jr.
I'm saying all my wrong names. I'm reading it too. I'm looking right at it. I'm saying it wrong. Brian Thompson Jr. Would you take him and trade away Garrett Wilson?
As you were reading that question, I was prepared to say, "Oh God, another overreaction to Garrett Wilson." I was like, waiting to come over the top and be like, "Oh, we're overreacting to Garrett Wilson's tough start." And I don't know if you saw the quote. I saw it on Twitter or X recently, where Garrett Wilson said, "I'm watching other offenses and I'm seeing how they're changing things up with how they run their routes and how they run their offenses, and we just don't do that here." So it's like showing how he's like frustrated with the system that he's in right now with Aaron Rodgers and not finding ways to get him the ball. But that, how long is that going to last with Aaron Rodgers? How long is he actually going to be there? But Brian Thomas Jr. and when someone in our circle, he's not in our Dynasty League, but in our circle, called out that like Brian Thomas was his favorite of the rookies coming out of this draft class. And I liked him coming into the year. I had him as a number 4 rookie, but the dude just looks good. He's a solid, consistent option for Trevor Lawrence. So if you aren't happy and are just impatient and need a change of pace from Garrett Wilson, I wouldn't do it. But I can see, Brian Thomas being an exciting jump starter to someone that you'd want on your team in Dynasty. But I like Garrett Wilson over that for me personally, but I'm not going to be mad at you if you do it.
Yeah. I mean, what a killer humble brag. Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and Brian Thompson Jr. were my 3 picks in the draft this year. I traded away Brian Thomas Jr. I did not think he was going to be what I think he is, which is at the same tier as Garrett Wilson, but possibly a little higher. If he was in a slightly better quarterback situation, I think it'd be a no-brainer to make that switch. But he's got question marks there with that whole organization. But wow, he's really impressive, and he immediately, he immediately became, I think, what we thought he would by towards the end of the season. But he just started out there. I would still go Garrett Wilson on that trade.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't take much of an addition, like throw in a second, a third probably not, maybe a second, and that would just push me over. But I'm close to swapping sides there because I don't think that Garrett Wilson. I think you're right to say there's an overreaction, but also we've been saying the same thing for 2 years now, where he might not be at the level that we thought he was in general. And he's still a great wide receiver, but he's not transcending to this top tier or top 2 tiers yet. So he's in the same boat as Olave for me, where this is the year where I'm trying to make that decision. And by the end of the year, if you haven't made the decision and called your shot on him, you're not going to be able to move him for what you would right now. So if
Right.
you think Brian Thomas Jr. is the guy, and you're leaning towards Garrett not being that top tier, then right now is the time where you got to shoot your shot, because by the end of
Yeah.
the season, it's going to be clear and people are going to be locked into their thoughts. Right now, people will still buy Garrett as the hope and think that you're overreacting.
Yeah, and that's especially true when you're thinking about it in from a dynasty point of view. I know in redraft the draft capital, at week 4, the draft capital you had to spend to get Garrett Wilson, which is probably at the back end of the first round or the start of the second round. You're not wanting to give up that sort of capital for Brian Thomas. You probably give it much later. But I think even in that situation, especially with the weeks going the way they are right now, I can see people making that switch.
Is the redo of rookie drafts Marvin Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr.?
I mean, if we're just talking about results from this season,
no, of like what you think that if you had the information we have now from the beginning of the season, and we knew that Odunze wasn't going to be, we knew that he wasn't going to start off hot, but just seeing what Brian Thomas is now.
Yeah, does he leapfrog into the top 3?
Does he does a certainty put him above Odunze and Ladd, and I forgot who else went?
I think like Leggett would have been in there and a few other folks, I think. I don't know if I'm there yet for full dynasty purposes, but yeah. Good on you if you grabbed him for sure going into this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And in that, are you still holding on to Marvin Harrison ahead of Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, he's running an insane amount of routes. Like he's running big boy routes, and he's got a command of it, and he's got the targets. He's got over 30%. Malik Neighbors is doing some amazing stuff, but he's also doing a lot of short throw stuff, and he has had a few drops too, and then he'll make spectacular passes that are really fun to watch. But I'm now on the side that Neighbors is a Jamar Chase level, and I'm hoping that and I've also put Chase down a little bit since the beginning of the year in my eyes, but I think in terms of a prospect, he's at the same level as Chase, where I felt it was Marvin and Chase and then Neighbors slightly below, and I feel like I wouldn't be mad at anybody for making that change between the two, but I'm still firmly Marvin Harrison above Neighbors. But I don't know who you could give me to get Neighbors off of that. That's how much I love him now.
Right.
It's just he's fun to watch. He's fun one to have on. In terms of the original question, Garrett Wilson or Brian Thomas Jr., it was, I think, a start decision. So I'm going Garrett to start. They're close though this week.
Yeah, for sure. I'd hate to bring up another tight end conversation in a 12-team PPR, but I think this will open up the floodgates for a conversation I want to have about certain tight ends. But this person is asking, do I start Tucker Kraft or Mark Andrews in a 12-team PPR this week?
Kraft. It's not. Mark Andrews might be, if you didn't have name value to trade, to package him into a trade to get something done, he would be a drop for me. And I know he's done it before, but it's and I know that he could. I'm not saying he's fully done, but in my eyes right now, he gave 2 goose eggs in a row.
On one target in each game.
Yeah, it's something's going on there, and it's Derrick Henry. He broke the offense for everybody else. And it's just they're not needed. They're needed. He's needed more to block, and he's playing an amazing football this year, but not for fantasy. Kraft is getting to a new tier right now of acceptable every week plays, and that's who I'd rather be starting. And I would wait if I had Mark Andrews, to be honest, because saying he's droppable right now is a little hyperbolic, but I would have one more week, and I hate rostering 2 tight ends, but I would wait one more week and just have him there if it's shitty again, and I can't get him traded, I'm done having you clog up, and Kraft is my new guy. And you might hate it later if he gets into a stride, but I bet you your opponents will get a few losses along the way because they're throwing a landmine into their roster every week now. Let someone else do that. Some of those players you just kind of want to like drop onto the waiver wire, knowing someone will clog their rosters, play them, and get 0 points again. It's a trap.
It's well done. By the way, I didn't realize how nerded out I was looking today. I don't know if you caught this and wanted to bust me on it, but I didn't realize I was wearing my Boba Fett shirt and also drinking out of my Boba Fett.
I didn't notice the Boba
time.
Fett cup. That's outstanding. I didn't notice this is Boba Fett coming through, but I'm sure now I can see it. I noticed the Rancor though. I think that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, full nerd.
I didn't. Yeah, it's one of those. I'll bring my LOTR stuff next week.
I'm good with exactly what you got. Yeah, I almost actually wore my nerd. That would have been the best because I almost wore my nerdy, like Star Wars samurai, like Stormtrooper Darth Vader samurai shirt. So we would have had this whole thing going. So unfortunately, I have to wear that next week so we can do it.
I'll figure out something else. We're good.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to hit?
Not off the list, but we'll go back there. But one question I do have, like, I think we're at a good point in the season, 4 weeks in. Mark Andrews is a good option there for this question. But is there anyone else you can think of that you're like, it's time to give up on this player and get them out of my starting lineup situation? I think Mark Andrews was the big one for me.
He's the biggest one. Oh yeah, Mahomes. And we spoke on our Phantom episode that got deleted by accident from the system we use, but that was a big thing we spoke to. Is Mahomes is probably the biggest name that is now. It's been over a year since he gave you really an acceptable game. I would drop. I think I said it. I think exactly what I said was I would consider dropping him for Justin Fields and Sam Darnold. And that should tell you everything you need to know about him. But he's still got name value. So just like Andrews, if you can get... I don't think anyone's trading for those players. But what I do think is if you're close on and you want a little bit of a... Oh, geez. Oh, my gosh. That's like the iPhone does or the Mac does all the... Unfortunately. And I'm like in serious work calls and then like balloons will pop up or thumbs up.
I don't even know what's happening, but okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So if you're close on a trade and you're the winner of the trade for one, throwing that in there might push the trade over, and that's where I feel that they still have the name value will get you something. I think people are hip to what's going on with them and not willing to clog up theirs, but I mean, I'm imagining myself at something where I'm like, okay, this player's a little more solidified, maybe an Achane for a Barkley, but I'm also throwing in Andrews or Mahomes, and maybe that's tempting to somebody, and the name value there will get it done. Just play around, throw multiple trades at every single person, and annoy everybody, and that's how you win. It's quantity over quality. Gang, let's go.
And now you know the world that I live in, receiving trade requests from Arlen Love.
You'll be surprised at what people, how many times somebody has responded back to me with a worse trade for them as the counter, and I'm ecstatic. And how many have gone through and been like, he sent me that. Just throw them out there. You'll never know how people really feel about players.
Where are you at on our Dolphins wide receivers?
Too much unknown with Tua, right?
Yeah.
Don't know if they're going to bring someone else in. Don't know if Tua's coming back. I'm assuming he's coming back. I'm assuming at the end of the IR is what my assumption is. Kind of goes with Achane too. I thought Achane was a little safer, but the last couple games have been rough. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But there are these rumors right now. So I don't know in redraft dynasty what we're talking about, but in redraft, let's say Waddle is droppable, but there's these rumors this week with the Davante Adams stuff, and then now there's Hill rumors going to the Chiefs. So there's these just rumors going on right now where
Yeah.
I would, if Hill left and it's just Waddle, you just put a superstar and you're going to do a full fab dump. So if you can make the room, I would hold on to him. I wouldn't play him. I would just wait and see, and then you can play him a little bit later on when Tua gets back, or if Hill gets traded. But right now they're not really startable, and I'm not mad at you if you sit Hill.
Yeah, I think Hill is benchable right now, right? Like on name value, and if you can do what you just said around the name value piece and get you something way more valuable than you'd be looking for with either Mahomes or Andrews, but I think Hill's another name value guy that you can utilize to get back more than he's currently worth, because it's he's a wide receiver 3 maybe for me right now. Like he's someone that I would question putting in my flex spot.
Yeah. It's like bye week injuries,
yeah.
and he's available for your flex, and you'll do it.
Yeah. But he's not as the solid start days of Tyreek Hill, I think, are gone for now until we know what's going on with Tua.
The first 2 games of or the first 2 picks of redraft this year have not shaped up. At least one's playing, but I don't know which one is actually worse. The one playing and tanking every week for you, or the one that you knew you had to make an adjustment for. And I always prefer an injured player that won't play than one that's there that won't play.
Yeah. Unless you get, for the first time in a couple of years, you've gotten the number 1 draft pick in any league, and it happens to be a vampire league, and you used it to get CMC.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Yeah. You were so excited about that. And in the vampire league, there's no waivers, so he can't pick anybody else. You know, my brother, I don't know if you saw my message, but my brother had said to me, where he's sitting on my couch, and he goes, hey, doing waivers on Tuesday, goes, hey, how do I pick up players in fantasy? I was like, or when can we? And I go, oh, you can't. He goes, oh, I know, but when can I? And I go, well, it's Vampire League. What you got is what you got. You got to either trade or just deal with it. And he goes, oh, I'm going to lose. It's painful. It's a bad year to start a Vampire League. Everybody's already bleeding out.
Yeah, it's pretty rough with these injuries out there. And
all right,
CMC being gone, it's over.
Yep. All right, y'all. Well, this has been a fun talk. I think we'll do it again sometime, going through some questions from the community. It was fun to kind of list through those and talk about some intriguing things like Caleb Williams is retiring from football, or he should. Things like this. But we'll have next week, we'll go through our waivers. We've been labeling them all wrong. Confessions of a new podcaster. So I'll label them right next week. And we'll do our week 6 waiver wire next week, as well as a redip on our quarterback top 10 dynasty rankings. There we go. All right, Nate. You ready to dance?
Ready to dance after we remind everyone to make sure they like and subscribe this podcast.
Oh, yeah, do that.
Check us out. Go ahead and hit us there. And remember, you can also find us on Apple, on Spotify. We are now there for your listening pleasures as well. But if you want to check us out on video, you'll see us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that comment section. Let us know how you would handle some of these situations we talked about, and we would love to interact with you there, as we already do every single time.
All right.
Now let's dance.
Thanks for doing the professional stuff. Appreciate you. The millennial stank face.